guys, it's the morning after. We've slightly recovered from our awesome hike. We thought it'd be useful to give you a bit of a rundown of the gear that we used, the gear that we took with us, what worked, what maybe we didn't use as much as we thought it would have, and yeah, I thought it might give you a really interesting perspective on those sorts of things. Maybe you're just looking to get into this type of hiking, or maybe you're just looking to refine your kit. Either way, hopefully we've got something here that can offer you some tips. Alright guys, the first thing we're going to look at is our cooking and fire gear, and also hydration. So all critical components of hiking and being prepared out in the wilderness.
Alright guys, the first bit of kit we're going to look at in more detail is the cooking equipment. Really important component of any backpacking, hiking, camping kit is the ability to keep yourself warm through eating good hot food. We're going to start off with a bit of a luxury item. This is a stainless steel Expedition Research bushcraft grill. They're available on Amazon relatively cheaply, I think less than 20 bucks. They probably don't ship to Australia, so you might need to use a postal forwarder. Look, I don't normally carry this, but when you've got a big trip, and our first day wasn't very far from the car, so it was nice to be able to cook a steak on the fire, and it's about 180 grams, I think, from memory. So, you know, not too bad to carry through. A luxury item, but a fun item. The next bit of kit is the humble billy can. So this is just an old aluminium billy that I found lying around in the shed. I normally take a lightweight pot, but the ability to be able to put food in your pot, rehydrate it next to the fire is really awesome, and it saves on gas, and we'll talk about fuel a bit later on. Good volume, lightweight, fairly robust, and really inexpensive. And so if you're looking to get into hiking on a budget, the old humble aluminium billy can is a great way to do it. Okay, next we've got a couple of different stove systems. I use the Jet Boil Flash. It's about ½ a kilo all up. It's really nifty. It has a cup, and I'll break it down. So it's all modular, everything fits inside. So this is your main cup. It's got an insulated cozy around it, so it keeps it warm, but also means you can hold the cup when it's hot, because obviously if you've got boiling liquid in there, that's going to go straight through the aluminium. So really functional bit of kit. A titanium spork. For a long time I used the plastic versions, and Alex gave me grief for it for a long time, but I upgraded about 13 bucks off eBay a couple of years ago. This is a Keith titanium spork, just awesome bit of kit. Gas canister. I can squeeze probably about a 6-day trip out of one of these small canisters, but that's using the fire to supplement what I do. So a morning coffee, maybe some noodles at lunch, and then some soup and a hot meal at dinner time. And I can usually stretch one of these to about 6 days. If I had to rely purely on the stove, I'd probably carry a backup canister just to make sure. But because I'm using the humble billy can, that just gives me the versatility I need using the fire and the stove. What I like about this kit is because I'm a bit of a coffee drinker, it's got a Java kit, which means I can turn this basically into a coffee press. Really handy, and I use this pretty much exclusively for coffee and hot water. But anything with a strong flavour, I do in here, and that way I'm not having Asian flavoured coffee through spicy noodles or that kind of thing. So good bit of kit. Alex has got some different kit, so he's going to take you through his stuff.
I think the aluminium billy can is great. I think it's a really cheap option, but a few years ago I bought an MSR Titan kettle. These are ridiculously expensive for what they are, but it is probably, out of all my gear, my favourite piece of kit. It looks tiny, but it's actually 800 ml. You can use it to rehydrate meals, to make coffee in, to have cereal in. You can put it next to the fire because it is titanium. It hasn't got any plastic crap on it apart from the top bit of the lid, which is stupid, and I don't understand why they put it on there. So I carry that with a cup, and that's pretty much my cooking gear. I use a different stove to the Jet Boil. I think the Jet Boil is great, but I use a Covia Moonwalker. I like this because it's good for multiple people, because you can put different size pots on it essentially. It packs down really small and it's very light. It doesn't have the simmer control of something like an MSR Dragonfly, which uses shellite. We've previously used the Dragonflies and they're fantastic, but they're very loud. This isn't loud at all. It's pretty good on fuel. I haven't really done any experiments on the fuel, but it's very good. Really like it. What else? I carry a windbreak. This is just the cheap foil windbreaks. This is actually Yeah, right, we cooked steak on that. This is actually a decade old. When we first bought these, I thought they'd last one hike. It outlived an MSR Dragonfly. That's how robust they are. We also carry a multi-tool for grabbing hot pots off the fire. This is a Leatherman Skelly tool, very light and very good. What else, Eric? Should we talk about our fire kit?
Let's talk about the knives first.
The knives.
So there's a couple of different options here that we've got. Both of these are Mora blades. They're made in Sweden. So the one Alex has got there is the Mora Companion MG. It's made of stainless steel. Really cheap. That was less than $40 off eBay in Australia. This one's even cheaper. So the next one is a more robust. It's even cheaper. I think it's about $24 off eBay. So really sturdy fixed blade options. They're 3/4 tang.
What are you doing to that?
That's a good point. So my knife, the robust, is a lot more dirty, and that is because it's carbon steel and it will rust.
And it's stupid. You should just get a stainless blade, and that way it won't rust. So my fire kit consists of a magnesium block with a what are they called? Ferrous rods or
Ferro rod.
Ferro rod with a bit of hacksaw blade on it. Eric likes to sharpen up his knife, the back edge of the knife, and it's a lot more effective than the hacksaw blade, but it also destroys the rod rapidly. So I don't know, choose what you want.
So I've got another option here. I've got a thicker ferro rod. It's a lot heavier. I've got some paracord on there which I've weaved. This is a fire and fish paracord, so if you needed to, you could unwind that. You've probably got about 10 meters worth of fishing line.
It does weigh a ton.
It weighs a lot, but it's going to last you a long time. Wet, it'll work and get a fire going.
Did you braid that yourself?
I did.
Oh, it's very nice.
It's very nice, isn't it?
I also carry a simple Bic lighter because sometimes I just can't be bothered with the stupid rod things, and you just want to get a bloody fire started. A few years ago, I found these on YouTube. A fellow was making fire starters, and all these are cotton face pads, and they're just dipped in candle wax. That's it. And so the good thing about that is that they're waterproof because they're covered in wax, and cotton wool itself is a very good tinder. It ignites rapidly. There you go.
Some of the hydration stuff that we carry. When you're out in the field, what we only carry maybe a litre or two of us to start with, and then we're harvesting from streams and from creeks, from other water sources we come across. The Humble Nalgene, it's a 1 litre bottle. It actually probably carries about 1100 mils. It is a super robust, reliable bottle. Can't recommend them highly enough. There's a couple of different versions. They come in all shapes and sizes and colours, but we like the 1 litre version. They've got a wide mouth. The wide mouth, in our experience, is critical because it lets you fill up from very low water sources. So if there's not much water in the creek, you can get that in there and you can still fill that pretty easily. These tap packs are made by Cedar Summit. They're basically just a wine bladder inside a bit more of a protected case. What this is good for is for carrying larger volumes if you're going up, say, out of the creek onto the plateau and you don't have enough drink bottles to carry as much water as you want. But basically, you take the top off and then you can fill the water in with your Nalgene bottle. Very handy to carry large volumes of water, handy at camp too. We normally use the Catadine micropore water purification, but on a longer trip, it's nice to have a bit of a mixture. And so we've come up with this little solution. It's not by any means ingenious. A lot of people have done it, but basically all it is it's a Camelback Omega bladder. It's a 3 litre bladder. It's got the HydroLink system, so everything clicks in. We've got a Sawyer Mini. On its own right, the Sawyer Mini is a pretty, I think, average system. It comes with a little 600ml squeezy bag. The flow rate's pretty average, but when you're using it as a gravity filter connected to a larger source, and this has just got an old Nalgene lid with a hole drilled in it, it's a really, really useful water filtration system, and it means you're not constantly relying on the chemical treatment. So a great option. Not the lightest. It's probably, just estimating here, maybe 400 grams or so. But yeah, so this is how it works. Basically, fill that bladder with water, suspend it. The gravity water feeds down the hose, through the filter and into your bottle. The next bit of kit we're going to talk about is your first aid and safety gear. A really critical part of any kit. You are responsible for your own safety. If you go out into these sorts of environments, it's on you to know what you're doing and to be able to take care of yourself. And that goes to the people that you take with you. So we've got here the elements of both of our first aid kit. We each carry our own gear. A really critical component of the kit is a PLB, a personal locating beacon. This is a GME AccuSat. They're not cheap. I think they're probably around the $300 mark these days. So registered with AMSA, the beauty of this is that if you find yourself in a, say, for example, a scenario where you can't get out by yourself, you've broken a leg, you've been bitten by a snake, you can trigger the beacon, and then that'll send a satellite signal. It'll get picked up by AMSA here in Canberra, I believe, and they will be able to, I guess, coordinate the emergency services to come and get you out. Now, these aren't perfect because there may be a range of factors that conspire against you in those situations. For example, where we were hiking in the gorge, there are really steep walls, the weather could close in, there could be all sorts of things, so you can't just carry one of these and think everything's going to be apples. You've got to be really careful when you're out there. A great supplement to this, because this is only a one-way beacon, is something like an InReach. This is really useful not only from a safety perspective, but just so you can let your loved one know, because when you're out there for 5 days, there's no phone reception, you can't use your mobile phone. But something like an InReach will allow you to message those who care about you and who you care about, and it means they're not sitting at home worried about you, wondering whether or not you're okay.
The other great thing about it compared to, say, a spot tracker is that it lets you know that the recipient received the message. It confirms with you that they received it. It also sends them your location with a hyperlink, and they can click on that hyperlink on the SMS and it will take them to a map online and show them where you are. The other great thing about it has an SOS feature, so similar to the EPIRB but slightly different. I won't go into the detail of it. Ideally you would carry an InReach and an EPIRB. You wouldn't have just the InReach, you'd have the EPIRB as well, because the EPIRB, as Erik explained, is mandated by government in the sense that when it's triggered, every resource in the local region, every rescue resource, every police resource must respond to that EPIRB as #1 priority. I'm not sure about that in regard to the InReach. I think it's similar, but you'll have to look at the details around that. Love the InReach, great battery life. It's waterproof in itself, but we keep it inside a waterproof package.
A snake bite kit. In Australia, we have a lot of snakes, particularly in a gorge environment. They are everywhere. We only saw a couple this trip, but they are very easy to come across. And look, over the years, we've had a couple of close calls. So a kit like this, it's made by...
Erik's very scared of snakes.
I was to start with. I now know a bit more about snakes, so I'm less afraid than I used to be. But you should always treat them with a healthy respect and avoid them wherever possible.
Definitely.
But in the event that you can't, and something does happen, carrying a kit like this can make the difference. It's basically a set of compression bandages.
So previously, we would carry the standard crepe bandage, the brown crepe bandage. And nothing wrong with these, they are good for snake bites. But the great thing about this snake bite kit, which is made by Survival Emergency Solutions in Australia, is it comes with these bandages called smart bandages. And smart bandages have an indicator box on them to let you know the appropriate amount of pressure to apply to the limb. The other great thing about these bandages, they are specifically made for snake bites, or I think other bites, for spiders for example. They will also cover an entire limb. So when you get bitten by a snake, you need to wrap the entire affected limb all the way up. And often these crepe bandages aren't big enough to do that, so you need a few crepe bandages. So there's 2 of these in the kit, and so you can apply multiple bandages to the limb if you needed to.
So it's obviously your responsibility when you're out there to have the right kit and to know how to use it. But a great thing about a kit like this is it doesn't just come with the gear, it comes with a set of instructions. That scenario where you are under pressure, then having the instructions can make the difference. So again, really, really useful bit of kit, highly recommend it. Some other things that we have with us, the Humble Watch. Why is it with our first aid gear, you ask? Well, knowing what time of day it is and how long you've got is really important in terms of logistics. And so if you know that you've got 5 hours of light left, you can kind of plan your day around that. Something like a G-Shock, really cheap, just a great little bit of kit. They're incredibly robust. This one's like 5 years old. Alex has got one that's 10 years old.
10 years old, and you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
It's a solar powered G-Shock and it's tough as nails. It's basically indestructible.
So what we've got here, guys, is a combination of different Ziploc bags. Ziploc bags are really cheap and effective way of keeping stuff dry. So in here I've got a mixture of different, I've got some antihistamines, I've got some paracetamol, some ibuprofen, some anti-inflammatories, a little bit of tape, and some, I guess, just some band-aids and some bandages. Carry a few bandages. A bit of strapping tape is really useful, not only for keeping yourself in good shape, but also your gear if it starts falling apart. Obviously toothbrush, some burn aid, some really handy things here. Alex has got much the same.
But better.
Better. Other things that are good, you can get little disposable eye drops. You might get some stuff in your eyes. So, and Alex has got his little field book there. So again, having those instructions, I've got some things I've pulled out of a first aid kit. Just so when you're in that scenario, if something does go wrong, you don't have to panic. You've got the information on hand and you can sort yourself out. All right, next we're going to look at our sleep systems. Obviously, an integral part of that is your shelter, and so we've got a couple of different tent options here for you. They're a very similar design.
Mine's better.
We've both got a 2-person tent with double vestibules and double doors. So I've got the Nemo Dago 2P, and Alex has the Big Agnes, which one is it?
Coppersberg UL2 Mountain Glow.
There we go. Has very nice fairy lights, gives him a good ambience at night time.
I like having discos in my tent.
So a couple of different things to think about with tents. We've both gone for freestanding tents. As you've seen through our videos, there's not always great flat ground, and so having the freestanding ability gives you that option to set up in less than ideal situations, whether or not that's on top of a rock, whether or not it's in a really rocky stream bed, whatever the scenario is, that freestanding ability is great. The double vestibule means if it's raining, you can get your gear out of the rain and into one of the vestibules and not clog up too much of your tent. So great options. Plenty of reviews online, check that stuff out. The most important thing is a good sleeping mat. I've got here a Climat insulated static V. It's an air mat. It weighs about 700 grams. It's the cheapest good quality air mat that I could find, but it is insulated, so it does give you some thermal protection from the ground. There are more expensive, more fancy, lighter versions, but everything's a trade-off between price, durability, and weight, and so you have to weigh up what's going to work best for you. At the time, this was the option, so I went with that.
Eric, how does that compare to a traditional thermarest?
It's a good question. So it's about the same weight as a traditional thermarest, which is like the self-inflating, has a foam inside the mat. It's slightly more lofty, so it's more comfortable. And I find that on one of these air mats, I can side sleep better than I can. So on my old thermarest, which is I think the Pro Plus,
Which is what I've got.
yeah, I was finding when I was rolling to my side, I was hitting the ground a bit, whereas in this, that's not happening, and it's slightly wider and slightly larger. For about the same weight. So comfort-wise, a little bit better, but I understand there are probably better versions out there from different makers who may give you more comfort. So that's the thermarest, the Climat. Alex has got the thermarest, I've got the Climat. Really lightweight pillow. This thing is the Cedar Summit Aerios ultralight pillow. I went for this version because it has some of the lightweight inflatable pillows have a really horrible crinkly plastic. This one is the only one I found that doesn't have that. It's pretty comfy. It weighs, I think, less than 50 grams. It blows up really easily. It's got a really nifty valve system that helps you inflate or de-inflate. Just a nifty little pillow. The one thing I have found is it gets pretty dirty, but doesn't matter too much. Alex has a different type. This has foam inside it. Still lightweight. This one's probably a little bit more comfortable.
It's not lightweight.
It's not lightweight?
It's not lightweight, but in my experience, these air pillows are bloody uncomfortable, and I just got sick of it.
So it's a matter of personal preference, guys. You got to figure out what works best for you. We've obviously gone different routes, but both work, both are comfy. Look, at the end of the day, you can use a jumper and roll it up and put it under your...
They're not both comfy. That is uncomfortable.
I like it. It's great.
This is very comfortable, but it weighs a ton.
So this is, yeah, it's probably 4 or 5 times the weight of the ultralight one. So it depends what you're willing to carry. You've got to weigh it up, guys. But yeah, a couple of good options. Sleeping bag wise, a good quality down sleeping bag is essential. This is an Australian brand called Mont. It is I think it's a Helios 650? Helium 600, sorry. This is actually my partner's sleeping bag, which I've stolen. Really comfy. It's got a nice, generous width to it. I've got a Rab Ettrema 200, which is very narrow. Got a tapered box. This one is much comfier. It's less than a kilo in weight.
Oh, that's a good feature.
Has great warmth. Very comfortable. And the bottom unzips if your feet get too hot. The one thing I really dislike about this is that Mont sell it without a dry bag, and in my view, that is unacceptable.
Terrible, Mont. Terrible.
If your down gets wet, the sleeping bag is useless, and so I use an X-Ped compression sack. But for the sort of money that you're paying for one of these things, it wouldn't cost you much to supply it with a dry bag. But the bag itself, I absolutely love. Alex has got a different version, but a good quality.
Very similar. Is great. Very similar. Yeah, down bags. Synthetic's great, but they're heavy and bulky. The great thing about a synthetic bag is that if it gets wet, you'll still stay warm. Whereas with a down bag, if you get wet, you're pretty much done. So I actually double dry bag my down dry bag.
We actually double dry bag most of our gear now. Because we're in the water, as you saw from our video, we're swimming through water with our packs on or behind us, and that way it keeps it dry when it's submerged. So a good down. Look, do your research too. There is some pretty unethical down out there. Some of the way the down is collected is quite frankly horrible. So you want to make sure that when you're buying down, you do your research and you're getting it from a company that uses a certified, more ethical source of down. The next thing we look at is hammocks. Definitely a luxury item. Definitely something you don't need to carry. But after a tough day of walking, particularly the sort of walking where we're doing, where you're scrambling over rocks, you're swimming, you're working really hard for 6-7 hours, the ability to string up a hammock between two trees is just awesome. So it's a great way to relax. I've got a Tier gear, it's T-I-E-R gear, it's made in Tasmania, a great small Australian business, and I love supporting little guys. The hammock itself, it weighs about half a kilo, so it's actually pretty light. Really nice material, great quality. It has a very nifty set of suspension systems, which is basically a bit of polyester webbing, goes around a tree, a bit of Dyneema rope, and then you can carabiner that to the hammock. It comes out of its own little pocket. Stringed up between the trees and you're sitting there or lying there. Fantastic. Super easy to put up, put down. Alex has a different version, the Femoral Slacker, a great hammock too. Very similar specs. Alex, you want to give us your thoughts on that one?
Oh yeah, it's a bit heavier than that. I think that's a much better trail hammock, but there's so many good hammocks out there.
A great investment. This one's about 120 bucks all up. It comes with a suspension system, so everything you need for 120 bucks. Again, made by a great Aussie supplier of equipment. So check Tier Gear out. Not affiliated with them at all, but really like their product so far. Okay, obviously any hiking trip is not complete without a good backpack. This is a custom build, guys. It's very different to the sort of thing you'd normally see. I used to use a Go Light Pinnacle, it was a 72 litre pack, frameless. So that means there's no suspension, very limited suspension system, no frame. The benefits of a frameless pack are it's incredibly lightweight. There are no benefits to a frameless pack. It's a matter of opinion, as all stuff is. This one is a custom design. I worked with Chris Zimmer from Zimmer Built in the States. It's a very expensive pack, so like any custom gear, it's not cheap. I had a lot of fun designing it, but if I'm honest, this is a bit of a failed experiment.
It's terrible.
This is probably about 100 litres with the roll top fully open. Like I said, I've probably pushed the boundaries too far from this. This trip particularly was very uncomfortable, had a lot of weight in there. So I'm gonna look at different options for the next trip. I had fun, look, I gave it a crack, it didn't work out. But some things I do like about this, I've got Hayden put in daisy chain down the front, so you see I've got a bit of shock cord here, very easy to attach things to it. I've got solid pockets with drainage holes for swimming through those creeks. I've got waste pockets so you can store a bit of food in there, you can gloves, whatever it is you want. So I had fun making it, and you won't find this online because it is a one-off custom. That stuff is certainly very achievable, but yeah, this one didn't work. Another option is a frame pack.
It's an Osprey Ether, 70 litre. It's very durable, it's very comfortable, it's inexpensive. The great thing about it is it has two components. It has a top pack, which is very handy. So you can do a little day trip or put your basic gear in and strap that around yourself. Go for a walk. It's just another pack in itself. It goes on top of the Osprey. As I said, very comfortable. 70 litres is a good amount. This is about 5 years old now and it's done many, many trips.
One of the last things to talk about is clothing. So in this bag here I've got some of the spare clothes I carried with me. I've got a couple of pairs of merino thermal tops. I've got a dry t-shirt, a dry pair of jocks, a pair of socks, a beanie, and that's really about it. On this trip I found I had one surplus t-shirt and one surplus merino top that I didn't wear. So that was probably extra weight on reflection I didn't need. I do also carry a lightweight polar fleece. This is just a Mountain Designs jumper, inexpensive, very lightweight, but just gives you a nice layer. And I've got here my Arc'teryx Gore-Tex jacket. Really important about to keep yourself dry and warm. And if you're doing the sort of walking we do, where you're going through the gorge, the ability to get to camp and change into dry clothes is really important. One of the final things we'll talk about is just some of the other gear that we wore. A pair of gaiters is really an essential bit of kit, particularly in Australia where there are lots of snakes. Now, these are not guaranteed to stop snake bites, but they give you a bit of peace of mind that if you do get bit in the lower leg, you've got a bit of extra protection. These are Cedar Summit Quagmire. I think it's the event fabric. They're pretty, you can see they're absolutely filthy. They need to get cleaned, but they're pretty comfy to wear. They're really robust. Socks. So I usually hike in a single pair of socks because I've got wet feet, so there's not much point in taking dry socks and putting them on because they're just going to get wet straight away. A good pair of sort of merino acrylic blend. I find Wigwam are great, they're really robust and one of the best bits of a kit you can buy. Boots, I use a Scarpa, these are I think a Kalish. Really comfy, very little breaking period, but you can see that the seam is coming away. Now these boots aren't very old at all. And I think it's a reasonably common problem with Scarpa that the seams do fail. So I'll try and super glue that. But yeah, a comfy boot, but yeah, not super impressed with the durability on those, but given what I put it through, not surprising. I normally carry just a pair of thongs or slippers, just so when you've been hiking in wet boots all day, you get to camp, you've got something to just, you can walk around the campsite a little bit more easily, and you get your feet dry and get them out of wet gear. So these are the lightest things I've currently got. They're an Oakley factory light sandal. They're great for that. What I've got here is just a pair of gardening gloves. I've got a box of about 10 pairs of these. They're really good for walking through thick vegetation or going over rocks, just so you're looking after your hands, because they're obviously fairly important when you're out there. Doesn't weigh much. If you get them wet, they do take on a bit of water, so you've got to try and keep them dry, or be able to dry them throughout the night when you get to camp. But a good addition to have. And finally, guys, a yoga mat. We've both got different versions. They've both been through the wars, but they're really cheap. And the ability to sort of lay on one of this when you're by the fire, get off the ground, it makes all the difference. And I use mine under my sleep pad, so I've got a bit of extra protection. Weighs absolutely nothing. I roll it up and attach it to the front of my pack, and it's just really good. So, all right, guys, look, that's it. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully, with this video has given you a bit of advice, a bit of a few tips or tricks of what we carry with us, what we found over the last 10 years or so of sort of off-track remote walking, what works for us. Obviously, there are a million different options and all the sorts of gear that we showed you, but yeah, hopefully you pick something up, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.